one to count the popular vote only and ignore the Electoral College in future presidential elections. Best regards. Yeah, I think, believe it or not, I think it is the biggest mistake they could possibly make, because it's assuming that the popular vote, and it was a right assumption until Trump came along, it's assuming that the popular vote will always go Democrat. And that's because of the cosmopolitan, the population dense centers of your coastal cosmopolitan cities of, LA and San Francisco and New York and Chicago and Boston and so on. So it made sense because they thought that they could pressure red states or purple states to do just that. But Trump showed in 2024 that when you bring out the low prop to no prop voter, they're more inclined to vote for the populist candidate. And as long as the Republican Party stays populist, like i.e. J.D. Vance, then the popular vote should continue to go in our direction, especially as more and more of the nation's population moves to red states, and red states continue to increase in their population while blue states decrease. So I think it's going to be, ironically, it would be a huge setback for them. Texas, and La Shock. Hello, Dr. Megadittos, as they'd say on Russia. So God bless Rush. I'm curious, do you think if Trump had become a governor or senator, cabinet or VP, and then become president, would there be as much of this vehement, irrational hatred? What a great hypothetical. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. That's a very good question. So the question seems, the question assumes that because Trump is the first non-politician / non-military figure, like General Washington, for example, to become president, just came out of nowhere, that he has disrupted, as it were, the apple cart. He's disrupted the rules as the regime led by the legacy media has created them. And that is kind of the source of the TDS. Yeah, I can't even imagine Trump as a governor. I can't even imagine him as a senator. He's just too big. His aura is too big. I would assume if he came up traditionally, there would be less. I think you're on to something. I think there would be less TDS and irrational hatred. The irrational hatred is originally, right, it was Putin that bought. There was no way he could have won. It was Putin who bought the election, rigged the election in 2016. And then this time around, they didn't have that excuse anymore. And now they've kind of gone back to their original TDSs. The glory of that win, that amazing win, has worn off. But that's the best I can give you in terms of an answer. I think, yes, I think you're right. It wouldn't be as bad, but I think it'd still be pretty bad. They were horrible to George Bush. They were calling Mitt Romney a Nazi. They're sick people. Tangiers, if traditionalism succeeds, we'll see a decline in premillennialism as American Christians gain confidence and optimism. Oh, will we see a decline in premillennialism as American Christians gain confidence and optimism? That's an excellent question. That's a really sophisticated question. So if you guys don't know, premillennialism is the idea that the Christian millennium, the reign of Christ, comes only after he returns. But he has to return because of the Antichrist rising up and trying to destroy his church. There is a premillennial view, like in the Orthodox Church, where the church is incredibly successful, very, like, for lack of a better term, like post-millennial. It's incredibly successful. And then the Antichrist takes over that success. That's an interesting kind of blend, right? So by definition of that, I'd have to say, no, it's not necessarily baked into the cake. A true millennium, like an actual Christ reigning 1,000 years on earth and having to return first, as opposed to a spiritual millennium, can still be connected to a very optimistic eschatology, provided that it's the Antichrist that takes over all the grand, glorious work that the church has done. That is, if I understand it, that is Bulgakov's eschatology, a Russian Orthodox theologian, brilliant theologian in the 20th century, because he was very influenced by Nikolai, why am I forgetting, Fyodorov. And Fyodorov believed that because of the resurrection of Christ, the very matter of the universe, the technology of the universe has been revivified through the Holy Spirit, through the work of believers, so as to be able to create a tech trad, science, religion-based world, a literally archaeo-future world where we can go and terraform all the planets all over the universe into a great harmonious galactic expression of Christian dominion. How's that? And he's writing in the 19th century. Dostoevsky and who else? Solovyov and a number, Tolstoy, of course, they were blown away by this guy. He was a librarian. He never married. He lived alone. Fyodorov, you might want to check him out, Nikolai Fyodorov. And Bulgakov was a big fan of Fyodorov, and he saw that. So this is extremely postmillennial. And then at the end, the Antichrist takes it over. So we built the whole structure for the Antichrist to take over. So you can have both. You can have both. But in America, obviously most Americans don't have this mind-blowing kind of Russian eschatology, but yeah, it's a good question. I could see it because it just, I think, let me back up. I think Christian Zionism is baked into the cake of Americanity. Okay, I this is coming as an Orthodox Christian. I'm not a Christian Zionist in that sense. I think dispensationalism, the idea that Israel has a very special place in God's historical redemptive activities, that he's going to, that the covenant he made with them will not end, and that it has not ended, and it's going to play out again. I just think it's just baked into the cake of things. It's baked into the cake of American Protestant theology. It's just so embedded. Can it be, what's the question? Can we see it in decline? Because premillennialism is a necessary part of that, as I understand it. Can we see it decline? I'm sure we could see a decline in it. I'm sure we can, but there's always a way, like even what you say with traditionalism succeeding, there's always a way of saying, oh, but that's just cultural Christianity. That's not real Christianity. Or, there's always a way around it. I personally think, like Tucker has been at war with dispensational theology. And to me, it's just like, I don't know. It's like trying to move a wall. What's the point? It's like being at war with Mormon theology. Mormon LDS theology is part of like American frontier mythology. It's just like the most American belief system you can come up with in a sense, I'm not endorsing it, or I'm just saying, you're not going to get rid of it. You're not going to make Utah less more. If anything, it's getting more Mormon. Mormonism is spreading because they're having kids. So, into Idaho and New Mexico and all that. So Wyoming. So I just think in the end, traditionalism is going to continue to succeed because religion itself, the growth of religion, is baked into the cake of demographics. Religious people are having kids and secularists are not. And I think dispensationalists are going to produce more dispensationalists. I do. Premillennialists are going to produce more premillennialists. There'll be, I think the more traditionalists we are, there'll be more options on the table for premillennialists to consider. But as long as they're having kids and babies, for every one premillennialist they lose, they're having 2 or 3 more in the crib. So, because I do tend to see, religion as heritable. There's studies that show that religion is passed down from parent to child, even if the kids kind of leave it for a while, whatever, they eventually come back. Or even if they don't fully come back, they're still very, very influenced by it. So there you go. Hi, Q, watching the California debate. I've come to the conclusion, give the left what they want and make sure they don't run away from the consequences. I like that, Hi, Q. I like that a lot. Yeah, they're insane. They're absolutely nuts at this point. There's no other way of putting it. These people are psychopaths.